Good evening and welcome to the September 19th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll be calling the meeting to order and also ask everyone to please silence their cell phones at this time. I'll introduce the board. On my far right, your far left, is James Morse, who is an associate member of the board, followed by Jerry Patamas, who is a full voting member, and welcome back, Jerry.
Thank you.
We also have with us Ken Foreman to my right, who is the vice chairman. My name is TJ Hurry. I am the chairman of the board. To my left is Ed Van Kuren, who is a full voting member, followed by Bob Dugan, who is the clerk of the board, and Mary Barry, who is an associate member. Also with us tonight, although not in the room, is Noreen Stockman, who is the zoning administrator, and also Ashley DeMello, who is our recording secretary for the night. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the zoning bylaws for the town and considers requests for special permits, variances, and appeals as provided in the town's bylaws, which have been approved by town meeting and the Attorney General's office for the Commonwealth. All decisions that the board makes are made through the public hearing process. The board's goal is to hear testimony from the applicant and from the public, and also to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement of the hearing and then present any pertinent information from the file, such as referrals from town departments and summarizing correspondences to and from the board. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, and time may be extended by vote of the board. The board will then question the applicant regarding the project, and then the public will be invited to comment as well. Public comment should be directed only at the project itself, and we also ask you to please refrain from making personal or derogatory statements. But public comment can include an opinion in favor or in opposition, or it just might simply be a question about the nature of the project. The chair will limit discussion in the interest of time if comments become repetitive. All members of the public wishing to speak should wait to be recognized by the chair and should come to the podium to our right here. We ask that you also state your name and address for the record. Typically, we limit public comment to 2 minutes per person. The board will either then close or continue the hearing. When the board is satisfied that enough information has been presented by testimony and in the file to make a decision by motion and vote of the board, the hearing will then be closed. And the alternative, the board may continue the hearing to a future date and time certain. After the hearing is closed, no more testimony may be taken. As for board discussion and decision, the board may then further discuss the project among ourselves, and a motion to deny or approve would be made and voted upon. Such a motion would include summary of key findings and conditions. An affirmative vote of 4 members, which is a supermajority, is required for approvals of motions on special permits, variances, and appeals. A split vote, such as a 3-2 vote, is a failure to carry and would result in denial of the project. Under Massachusetts general law, if a special permit is denied, the applicant cannot return to the board for 2 years unless the project is substantially different. And turning to our agenda for tonight, we do have public comment. We have 3 continuations, we have 3 new hearings, and we also have a few items on our open meeting or agenda item. So first, for public comment, this is a period for anyone to speak on matters that are not before the board today. The other public comment will wait until, if you have any questions regarding any specific applications. So does anyone wish to speak on any matters that are not before the board today? Sir?
Get this mic way down. Good evening, gentlemen. Joe Bento. I am in a butter on the 440 project at Locust Field Road. I'm here with concern that 3 weeks ago, Mr. McClone went in and clear-cut all the land there, which is his right to do. But by doing that, he left a pile of rubble, of sharp metal objects, construction debris, and my concern is that it's in the open, it's not protected, and that local animals or even wildlife and people, more children cutting across the property to go to the high school could end up being hurt. And I feel that after 3 weeks, if he can cut 3 acres of land, he should be able to pick up a pile of metal or rubble and construction debris, which I feel is a danger to the neighborhood and the people going there. We have noticed, since he clear cut it, that we've had several people on dirt bikes running up and down that dirt road. I mean, it's an open runway for them. So that's my concern. I mean, I think that if he can clear cut 3 acres of land, he can pick up the rubble that's sitting in the property. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you,
All righty?
sir.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
You too, thank you. Anyone else have any other public comment or anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Okay, seeing none. On to our continuations. We have the continuation of application 52-19, Cape Cod Aggregate Corp. And,
So we had continued because Conservation wanted to go out and look at the property. They have submitted a memo. It's from Jennifer McKay, Conservation Administrator. On 9/12/19, the Conservation staff met with Civil Engineer John Doyle and Associates at the gravel pit off Blacksmith Shop Road. We reviewed the plan by John Doyle dated 8/12/19, showing the existing conditions for the gravel pit for Cape Cod Aggregates. The current limits of disturbance depicted on the plan match what was observed, in the exception of one cell zone that was not near conservation jurisdiction. The cell activity took place between 8/12/19 plan and the time it took for the zoning board meeting last week and was covered under the current permit. There are no issues with the West End Lot 13, map 23-314A13, that has wetlands. The edge of mining activity to the buffer zone, which is the white-tailed deer migratory area in the town of Falmouth property, is being maintained. And just to note that in the future, conservation staff would like to be invited for on-site visits when it's up for renewal, just to expedite the process.
thank you. And I know that we were waiting for that referral from Conservation, but does the board have any additional questions for the applicant at this time?
I don't have any.
No questions.
Okay, seeing.
I'm not voting on this one.
That's correct, yes. All right, so seeing none, just ask if there's any public comment. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding this project tonight? Okay. Back to the board. How would the board like to proceed?
Next step is to close it, right?
Yeah, motion to close?
Yeah, motion to close.
Okay, motion to close made by Bob, and I'll give Ed the second on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
You need to appoint someone.
Oh,
They're all done. They're already appointed before.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's everyone with the exception of Jerry. How's that? Just to keep it simple. And how would the board like to proceed?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion approved by Bob, and I think I heard James on that, so we'll give that. Findings?
Well, I think we can go pretty much by the previous permit, except just refer to the changes in this of the site location and the reclamation.
Okay, so there's a previous special permit on file.
Yeah,
just-
we'll need
refer
to-
that.
We'll need to refer to permit 6489 and also 90-16.
Okay.
Compliance with 240-152, 240-150, 240-154, 240-155. Along with all the conditions in the previous permit, 6489 and 90-16.
I think it's also important and just note and I think it might be for the previous special permit, but referring to the buffering regarding the two closest properties, I think it's the O'Brien property in the southeast, and there's.
Yeah, refer to 200-foot buffering. They do also do a 75,000 bond yearly to the town.
Anything else for findings?
No, I guess in findings that the conservation did their site visit and we did our separate site visit.
All right. Anything for conditions?
I think we use all the same conditions from the previous permits.
Yep.
Including that they would be back to us again in 3 years.
So if that does it for findings and conditions, motion approval made by Bob and second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
One abstention. Just to keep the record straight.
Okay, we have next application 42-19, Hawks Warma, 641 West Falmouth Highway in West Falmouth.
You know, if we could just take one out of order, just in case anyone's here, but I'd like to take out of order 3519, 33 Pheasant Lane, because there's been a request for a continuance.
Okay, so motion to take 3519 out of order, made by Bob and second by Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to continue to October 3rd. We got a memo from town council, and he's reviewing more information. So he's requesting the hearing continuance as well as the property owners' council. So motion to continue to October 3rd.
Motion to move to, or continue to October 3rd. That was made by Bob. Is there a second?
Sure. Second.
Second by Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.
Ed's recused on that
Right.
for obvious reasons. All right, now we're on to application 42-19, Hawks Warma, 641 West Falmouth Highway. For the applicant tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicants Arthur M. Hawks and Sarah Warma. They're the owners of 641 West Falmouth Highway, and as you know, they're seeking a special permit under Section 243C and 251A5 of the bylaw. Per this board's request, we did submit copies of the case law that was referenced at the last hearing. This is Tofias v. Butler and Green v. Board of Appeals of Norwood. I believe those were the only outstanding questions that the board had at the last hearing. However, as a brief recap, I wanted to, again, just go over the project very quickly. What we're proposing is to maintain the existing two-family dwelling at the front of the lot and to add a third unit, which will be a single-family dwelling at the rear of the lot. This is it is a split zone lot with an area in the public use in the business zone as well as in the residential B district. It is analogous to a number of cases that have been before this board, many of them nearby. The most analogous, the most on point, is the Fieldstone Place condominium on Westmoreland Drive, in which the ZBA approved 6 units on 1.2 acres. The board calculations permitted density based on the entire lot, which included public use, business 3, and residential B, and they allowed 1 unit, which was a single-family dwelling, to be located on the residential B portion of that lot. I also referenced 270 Old Main Road in North Falmouth, in which this board allowed multifamily use of 8 units on 1.558 acres of split-zoned lot, which included a new duplex on the general residence portion. And similar findings were made at the West Wind condominiums and 587 Main Street. This development is not significantly more detrimental than what currently exists. No new nonconformity will result from this project. This project meets the standards of 243C, 240-51A5, and 240-216. I believe we've given you enough information that this board can grant the special permit. I'd be happy to address any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Attorney Flower. Mary, do you have any questions? Mary,
I think, yeah,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
it's okay?
I was just trying to think. Can you clarify how the Tofias versus Butler case establishes the multifamily use? That was one of them that you submitted.
Sure. Basically, what Tofias v. Butler says is that in a split zone lot, you can take the entirety of the lot into play when calculating permitted uses. So, for instance, we're applying for multifamily housing under the Business 3 zone, which allows for up to 6 units per acre. You can take the entirety of the lot into consideration. You can, on a section of the lot that is zoned separately, you can only use a use that would otherwise be allowed, which is why there's a single-family dwelling in the residential B district, and the multifamily, or the duplex rather, is located in the business zone, which allows for that.
Is that considering the pre-existing non-conforming status of the dwelling?
The only nonconformity of the dwelling is the setback to the Route 28A. So it's a nonconforming front yard setback. The use itself is conforming.
Anything else, Mary?
Yeah, can you clarify what you intended to demonstrate with the Green versus Board of Appeal of Norwood?
Sure. Green versus Board of Appeals of Norwood establishes that you don't need to, it says that you don't require cumulative calculations. So for instance, for various uses, you're not required to have the required square footage for each use in a split zone lot. The board had said that requiring each such use to meet the minimum land area would render an unreasonable result.
Anything else, Mary?
I think that's it.
Okay. Bob?
So there were some plans submitted in the file, and I know Mr. Doyle is out medically right now, but they didn't seem to match.
So the plans, the plans that we're looking at here are really the plans of record. This was designed to essentially try to show how the retaining walls would work. And as you can see, this was not prepared by Mr. Doyle. This plan was prepared by Mr. Doyle. This is the plan that has has a stamp on it. The engineering has indicated an issue with the low spot on the leaching field, and that's being addressed, but they haven't had a chance to have that addressed by Mr. Doyle due to his surgery. I would say that we of course need to meet with the requirements of the engineering department as well as the Board of Health. I think that can be a condition of any decision rather.
Do you have any idea when those plans might be available?
I can't say for sure. I think that relatively quickly. I don't think there's much of a change to be made to these plans, but I don't know what Mr. Doyle's availability will be over the next few days, week, 2 weeks.
There was a memo, and not a question for you, Ken, but there's also a memo in the file, just so the board knows, from Conservation. The staked edge of the wetland is shown on the plan dated 5/4/2019 by Doyle and Associates is the isolated land subject to flooding, freshwater wetland line that staff confirmed May 2017. The wetland could possibly be a vernal pool unless confirmed otherwise. The 100-foot vernal pool habitat line would be labeled from the determined high water mark of the wetland, which would be further away than the 100-foot ILSF line. The proposed dwelling is proposed outside of conservation jurisdiction. However, the foundation overdig will likely extend within jurisdiction, so a properly installed limit of work silt fence must be incorporated prior to digging. The silt fence can extend within the 100-foot wetland line, provided it is within the existing grass and no trees or shrub vegetation are removed. It does say that all other proposed work within conservation jurisdiction, that includes the proposed pool, retaining wall, new shed site, and other structures, hardscape, or additional digging activity, must first be approved by the commission. Any naturally vegetated source area, buffer areas, and existing trees for the project must be included on the plan, along with the vernal pool line and buffer zone setback distances prior to filing. Compensatory native plantings are required under FWR 10.18 for structures, hardscape, or tree removal. I don't have any other questions.
All right. Ed?
I don't have any questions.
Ken?
No, I don't have any questions.
I had a question, just of curiosity. We had an opinion from Assistant Town Council. Would you care to opine on it?
I'm not aware of an opinion from Assistant Town Council,
Okay.
so I can't opine on it.
Do we normally send so that we can, if there's, I should say, if there's tit for tat on the discussions, I think the letter I read, I thought the Assistant Town Council raised one question saying that she thought she should discuss it with the attorney.
So she replied to a question from the board about the cases that Mr. Clower sent. And so that was, what was forwarded was her reply.
Okay. In the past, and I understand maybe we weren't correct, thought we always sent legal opinions to the opposing, to the applicant, so they'll know what's in front of us. He's theoretically blind as to what we had from that.
Right.
And I don't know if it impacts the other, I guess I'm just asking for clarification. I can't vote on it, but could be a discussion matter. And I don't know if anybody.
Usually, town council's advice or opinions are for the board and are not shared outside unless there's some specification on that.
I guess in the past, we routinely did, but I appreciate it. You know, maybe it's just, okay, I've said it, I'll let the rest of the board members. Thank you.
No problem, Jerry. And any, I know you're not a voting member on this tonight, but do you have any questions?
No, I was, bureaucratic procedural question.
All right. James, anything?
Were there any objections or concerns from the residents of Stagecoach Lane in the file?
No, there was one of, there was Andrew Butler from Westmoreland. Support letter for Susan Moran, who's now business owner on West Falmouth Highway. I don't see one from Stagecoach.
There is
Westmoreland, Windmill.
I'll take letters in favor, too.
Yeah, no, most of them were in favor. But I thought there was something from Stagecoach.
Yeah, something just recently.
there is.
I'm aware of a number of letters in
Westmoreland.
support. One letter from Mr. Butler on Westmoreland expressed some concern, but not necessarily an objection.
My concern is if there were objections, merely that they be addressed into the record by...
No, I mean, we discussed Bunker's objections before. He did update a letter on September 19th. Just said that he had submitted the previous letter to the board of September 5th concerning the project. Wanted to clarify that he wasn't opposed to the request to rezone the property in a way that would allow the construction of a one-family home. His main concern is that all regulations are taken into account in the approval process and the design is appropriate and it conforms to regulations that currently exist.
Thank you.
Anything else, James?
No, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Seeing none, members of the public, do you have any questions, comments, concerns regarding this project tonight? Anyone? All right, seeing none, back to the
Mr. Hurry, if I can interject, if I could ask the board if they'd be willing to have a discussion prior to closing, it would be greatly appreciated by the applicants.
Certainly could. Would we like to have a board discussion?
Yeah.
Regarding this project? Anyone want to start us off?
Well, I mean, I'm reading Associate Town Council opinion, and it's contradictory with what Attorney Clower has said, so since he hasn't seen it, I kind of agree with Jerry. I don't know how we resolve that. I mean, he says, for example, or she says, Green versus Board of Appeals makes no mention of split zoning, no apparent relevance to Attorney Clower's position. Just as one example.
Chair, would it be up to the applicant to request a continuation, poll to see if he's got the votes now?
Good. We could have more of a discussion.
Yeah,
That's
I
right now.
just, I mean, I raised it because I was uncomfortable if I was gonna make an opinion. I've always liked to see the two councils say, okay, I've seen it, and then we make the decision.
Does anyone else have any other concerns or any comments about the project?
No, I guess my only thing is, in a situation where someone has a medical issue right now, but I usually don't like to look at plans if they're gonna change without seeing something that's consistent. And I know that they were kinda caught off guard, but I feel more comfortable voting for them once we have the accurate plan.
I tend to feel that way as well.
You know, and maybe if there was a memo from town council that we need more information on at that point, if we continue, that would give time to send that information to Attorney Clower so that he could chime in on his opinion on the decision.
So Attorney Clower, my apologies regarding the email to town council that
That's
we're
all right.
referencing, and you weren't in receipt of that.
I mean, my feeling on that is, I don't know that whether or not, and I can't find the exact citation in Green v. Board of Appeals, but it does refer to cumulative calculations of uses. So her point that it's not necessarily split zone doesn't change the fact that we're still talking about cumulative calculation of various uses. That said, I don't think it is necessarily needed for the board to, whether or not I contest that particular finding with Ms. Mullen or Attorney Mullen, I don't think changes whether or not the board can approve this or should approve this, because I really think that when we've talked about split zone lots in the past, Tobias v. Butler is kind of the most on-point case. And that does hold that you can have uses of this nature, and that's what this board has relied on in a number of split zone cases, split zone lot cases. As to the plans prepared by Mr. Doyle, the only real change is to a relatively minor change to some grades located near the septic area. There's no real relevant change to what the board would be approving in terms of the proposed structure or the existing structure or the uses. We're talking about a pretty minuscule degree of change in terms of grade to address a low spot. So I think this board could certainly vote to approve this. If, to the extent the plans change, we would of course need to come back to modify. We've established that, you know, changes to the plans require modification of the special permit. I think that, you know, in terms of, I think this is approvable the way it stands, and I would ask that if this board finds it possible that we move forward. But of course, that's if we move forward with an approval.
Thank you, Attorney Clower. So with that having been said, how does the board feel about, or should ask, do we have enough information? Can we close tonight and make a decision, or do we need to continue given the issues with town council's email and,
Well, the town council email brings up issues with even the multifamily use proposed, so.
Right.
That's probably my biggest concern. And it might be something that could be alleviated if she talks to Attorney Clower, but I think it would be better for us to continue and let that information be supplied and see what comes out of the discussion.
I go along with that, let's just get that resolved.
Ken?
I agree.
You leaning that
I
way too?
agree completely.
Okay. All right, so we'll be aiming toward continuing it.
What's available for the next?
October 3rd.
So I make a motion to continue.
But can I just add
Yeah.
one thing? I think that there needs to be a meeting of the minds between the two attorneys. We need to get both her opinion and his as to why hers is not correct.
Correct.
Yeah, it'd be one more, excuse me, Mr. Chair, it'd be one more memo after they have exchanged, whether they continue to disagree for various facts.
If we
or
continue to
one
October
is-
3rd, that'll give them time to hash out any,
Right, and
Questions.
if, I mean, there is the possibility, if she feels strongly, that she could be here for the discussion.
correct.
Attorney Clower, does October 3rd work for you, or
I don't see that I have much of a choice, so,
trying to work with your schedule?
I mean, I can be here, I can be available. I'd ask that the memo be forwarded, since I haven't had a chance to review it. I wasn't aware that there was a discussion about the multifamily either, because that, the portion that was read didn't refer to that. So it's hard to respond to things that we don't know about.
I understand. My apologies for that. So would anyone like to make a motion?
So motion to continue to October 3rd.
Second.
The motion was made by Bob and second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
hearings. Application 50-19, James Kelly, 165 Acapesket Road in East Falmouth. We do need to read everything into the record, so if you just give us a minute.
There's an easel over here.
We need an easel.
Okay, so being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Mass General Laws, you are hereby notified that James M. Kelly of East Falmouth, Mass. has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-23G1 of the Code of Falmouth to construct a breezeway and attached garage with habitable space above on subject property known as 165 Acapesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For referrals, engineering has multiple comments again regarding stormwater runoff, but they also say that the plans show a new driveway coming off of Gary Avenue. Since this is a public right-of-way, a driveway permit application will have to be filed with the engineering department. There is not enough information shown on the plan to approve a permit on this driveway as shown. What is the proposed driveway material, garage floor elevation, proposed grades of driveway and shoulders? There isn't enough information to determine if there will be stormwater impacts on the right-of-way. Site distance would be a concern. We will need to see a plan for vegetation clearing. We will require erosion and sediment control of the project since it slopes towards the public right-of-way. We recommend board add condition requiring addition, dry wells, rain garden, stormwater measures. We requested the board require the applicant to obtain a approved driveway permit from the engineering division prior to closing the hearing for this special permit, which is our preferred choice given the above issues which may require site plan revisions. The applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering department for a driveway permit. Health Department, the space created above the garage meets Title V and Falmouth's local septic regulations definition of a bedroom. It's larger than 70 square feet, has privacy and windows. The existing septic system is pre-1995 and is only good for the number of bedrooms existing, which is 3 bedrooms. And this room would constitute a 4th bedroom. Concom, no comment. Assessors, no comment. Fire Department, no comment. Planning, no comment. There was one letter of concern in the file. And there was a request of the building commissioner, Rod Palmer, that they give a frontage designation, which is currently 165 Acapesket Road to Gary Avenue, because they do not meet the required 25 feet off of Acapesket Road. And Rod Palmer did sign the plan that would allow the designation of Gary Avenue.
And for the applicants tonight?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, you can introduce
Okay,
the project to
yeah,
us.
the proposed project is my private, my personal address at 165 Acapesket Road, where I reside there with my wife. And the primary reason for the garage and living space is to expand our living space. We're currently in a pretty small, originally a Cape-style house that was converted to a center entrance colonial. And the garage is for storage of my boat, yard equipment, and parking for a car.
Would you like to tell us anything else about the project, or?
I'm Edwin Montero. I'm the contractor. I did speak with Mr. Schluter of the DPW for engineering, and his proposed questions that he had, I can probably answer those for the board. The proposed driveway, when I spoke with him, is going to be seashell, and it will probably have a cobblestone or a asphalt type of apron for the entry off Gary Avenue. The proposed elevation for the garage floor, I do have a cross-section. If you look, refer to the site plan, where the proposed addition is going, you will see that the elevation right in the middle where the garage is going is at elevation 16, which is the midpoint, and the elevation going down towards Gary Avenue is 14, so there is a 2-foot difference. So we will have plenty of pitch, and we'll be able to slope the driveway naturally with grass and loam to take any type of runoff. And I do have a copy of the cross-section elevations for the board, if you'd like to see it.
Give it to the clerk.
Sorry about that. Any other comment on the project, or we can turn it to board questions if you'd like?
Just to answer the questions, and I spoke with him about the vegetation. He wasn't out there. There isn't any vegetation or there's gonna be any tree cutting down. The area is already cleared out previously. So any type of runoff or anything else will have a silt fence during construction to contain any runoff to go into the street either on Acapesca Road or Gary Avenue.
Could you just comment on the septic situation where it's currently
Yep.
three?
Yep, when I apply for the permit, it's gonna be unfinished upstairs, so the only thing that's gonna be finished will be the garage and the breezeway. But when I spoke with the Board of Health, if Mr. Kelly does decide to finish off over the garage, we will add a leaching field to satisfy a 4-bedroom house to comply with Title V.
Just go down the line for questions. James, do you have any questions?
Pass me, come back and make one.
Sure. Not a problem.
It's,
Jerry, anything?
It's, the application asked for a 3-bedroom, right? You're not changing it.
No,
So right
that's
now,
correct.
you've asked for a 3-bedroom, you're requesting approval from this board if they grant it for a 3-bedroom.
That's correct.
And if you desire to put a 4th bedroom in, you have to come back to us and you have to go back to the Board of Health.
That's correct.
And the Board of Health did approve the septic tank as is for 3-bedroom.
That is correct, yes.
And I don't know, it's the other members of the board. How long have you lived there?
We've been there for 11 and a half years. The last 2.5 have been our primary residence.
Do you have an opinion as to changing your address? I mean, the board might have to approve and we can get it into discussion, you know, the setback, but,
This is just a front yard designation.
oh, it's a front yard isn't
He's
it?
not changing the address, he's just designating, he doesn't have enough frontage on Acapesca Road,
Okay.
enough setback, so he needs to change the designation with the building department in order to build this at all.
Okay, so it's nothing to do with mailing address.
No, and the
No.
question you had on
Okay.
the,
Yes, frontage on two roads,
Okay,
Acapesca
all right,
and Gary
just
Avenue.
Setback on Acapesca is only 24 feet wide.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
and the comment you had, Jerry, on the 3-bedroom, it wasn't that they're not asking for a 3-bedroom, it's that Health Department has said that the plan that's submitted now, that he would need to have a 4 to do this plan.
You need a what?
That what's been submitted right now with the space above the garage would require the Health Department to have a system for a 4-bedroom.
I didn't hear that when you read it. I thought if they,
No, it meets,
Finished.
right now, it meets the designation as submitted.
okay, maybe we get some clarification.
I'm sorry?
Bob, why don't you, I think we're going back and forth on the plan you showed it finished. Board of Health saying if it's finished.
So the plans that have been submitted to us would show a den, a wet bar, bath, mechanical room, the separate entrance meets the definition that the Health Department would have for a 4th bedroom, and as such, they would need to have a 4-bedroom system.
Oh, wait a minute. We could say that this, we're only approving a 3-bedroom.
Not with this plan, because it's showing that they have space on the plan.
No, the
that's
Board of
defined.
Health is saying that the spatial requirements meet the definition of a bedroom, which it's up to them. But they're not gonna make it into a bedroom, and we have a condition that it cannot be a bedroom,
But that's the plans that have been submitted.
not as a bedroom, though.
It's the definition of the space. It's more than 70 square feet. It has a window.
I guess
It
I
has a full-
disagree, because we can approve this as a three-bedroom, period. Then let the Board of Health decide.
But we know what the designation of a fourth bedroom is even when we go over the bylaws, so on this plan,
The applicant asked for a three-bedroom, and we're presuming it to be a fourth bedroom when it hasn't so designated. If it becomes a fourth bedroom, he comes back in front of us.
So let's,
I guess I've,
no, I understand it, Jerry, but let's, I guess we could wait for board discussion to talk about that. I just want to get questions from the board out of the way first.
yeah, sorry.
Anything else, Jerry,
No, I think
besides that
that's it.
point? Okay. Ken?
Do you propose to heat the upstairs?
Yes, sir.
So as constructed, even though you're saying it's gonna be unfinished, it will be heated?
It won't be heated until it's finished.
When the construction will take place, when it's gonna be unfinished upstairs, all it's gonna be up there would be the rough electrical and the rough ductwork up for the future, if he does decide to finish it off. Obviously, if the basement is finished off, I mean the garage, it's all gonna be sealed
Is
with.
the garage heated?
Yes, it is, the garage will be heated.
Anything else, Ken?
Well, I'm just wondering, so is that ductwork gonna be hooked up?
No, there'll be a separate heater for the garage. It'll be a Modine heater, separate gas heater.
What about upstairs?
Upstairs will have its
That's
own
what I'm
unit,
asking.
come the time if and when we decide to finish it off.
So will the bathroom be in place?
No, just rough plumbing.
So my concern is, it's a fairly small lot. If you need to put in a leach field, is there adequate space? And I wonder if the leach field could be shown on the plan, if at least, sometimes we get projects where we ask, even if they don't build out all the parking, they show us they could put it on the plan.
Right, well, as proposed, we're leaving it unfinished, but if it did, the engineer would have to draw up the leach field, which would probably go in back of the house, which would be on the west side. And if it did meet the setback requirements for being
That's my
10 feet off, we'd have to apply for a variance.
Right. So I guess my concern is that, can it be fit on there? That's really what I'm asking.
I'm sure they could configure something, but again, if it doesn't meet the setback requirements for being near the garage or off the back lot line, depending on where he decides he wants to put it, then we'd have to apply for a variance, but as of right now,
Variance from the zoning board?
no variance from the Board of Health, if you don't meet the setback requirements. 20 feet from the foundation, 10 feet off the lot line, then you have your leaching field.
What are their criteria, do you know, for granting such a variance?
It's only 10 feet off of here.
Right. I'm sorry, say that again, please?
What are their criteria for granting such a variance?
Well, usually, they usually have to grant a variance if you're increasing the bedrooms. Usually when they do it, on the variance, they want to make sure that you have several designs. It either could be 3 500-gallon chambers, or they could have infiltrators, whatever's going to fit in the area on the property for what they
So I
do.
guess where I'm going is, either, if it's not finished, then we want a plan that we can approve showing it as unfinished. If it's gonna be as you've shown, then my inclination is we want a plan that shows how you do it in conformity with the Board of Health.
Well, the plan I'm filing with the building department does state that the upstairs is unfinished.
Well, this one does not.
No, because it's just open, just says the den, but the permit and the application with the building department does show that the permit will be issued with a unfinished second floor.
I understand. The plan we have possession of shows it as a den with a sink, wet bar, and so forth.
Full bath.
Full
Well,
bath.
you,
So that's the plan that the zoning board is working with.
Mm-hmm.
If you want us to approve this plan, I think we have trouble with that unless you submit a revised plan. That's where I'm going.
well, you could amend what we're saying if you wanted to state that it's just going to be unfinished. That's the condition of your approval, if you want to state that it's unfinished.
What's the application say?
Yeah.
passed.
It says a 30 by 36 two-car garage under with living space above and a 10 by 10 breezeway. So our application also says it's living space.
Right.
Our plans show that it's living space. And even though the building department doesn't show living space, going off of what Ken said, yeah, the health department does deal with variances once it's an existing structure. But in this case, you might be able to fit a 4-bedroom septic in without a variance, amending whatever the addition plan is.
Anything else? Phil?
That's it.
Ed?
No, I think all my questions have been answered, but it's like we need a current set of drawings.
Is there any finished space in the basement of the existing house? No?
Anything else, Bill?
That's it.
Mary?
Might have been answered.
It's been a-
The questions I had were answered.
I had are we in the open, still in the open?
Well, if you have any questions right now, we can certainly
Well,
ask
it
them.
was more of the board, considering that we have some outstanding questions. Maybe continuation may be in order so that we have all the facts and the applicant can be given benefit of what he wants to do rather than what we think he's gonna do when he applied to the building commission, which is in conflict.
Right, might be appropriate. I just want to, if we're done with board questions,
Okay.
I just want to turn it to members of the public. I don't know if anyone's out there that has any questions, comments, concerns regarding this project. Seeing none, back to the board. We do have some outstanding issues. Do you want to have some board discussion in terms of
Well, so just an
what's going on
outstanding,
with the project?
so just an outstanding issue, so I would want whatever plan is submitted here to be the same plan that's with the building department.
That's what gets us in trouble when we have two different sets of plans.
I think Ken is smart saying that I'd like to see on the plan shown where the leach field could be for the 4-bedroom. Even though that he's gone over the answers with the engineers department tonight, which was nice, he was able to give us that information. We don't have any of that feedback from the engineering department, so maybe he could touch base with the engineering department, and they could update their referral.
Yeah, I concur, we definitely need.
Because there's a lot of questions on that driveway alone, it could cause problems if it's,
Engineer has to get back to us that he either agrees or disagrees with the contract. I guess I still go back and forth on, do we need to design, look through the design, it's not a matter of just drawing a square on this plan. An additional septic tank, if there's no intention of putting it in, if the revised plans say this is gonna be unfinished, that issue goes away. If I heard Mr. Montero correctly,
It is correct.
that if a revised plan came in, it would reflect what's in front of the building commissioner, and it would say that space above the garage would be roughed in for plumbing and electric, and will be unfinished.
It is correct.
Now, I don't have the letter in front of me. I think that makes the Board of Health issue moot at that point in time.
well, if he submits that, then we'll give it to the board.
Oh,
of
yeah,
Health
we can
and
have,
see
yeah,
if
we
they-
can discuss it. That's fair.
You still get to the same situation. If you're rough plumbing, you're doing the work, then you're eventually going to finish it off, or there's no need to set rough plumb, so you still get in the same septic situation, so. They
But
might be able, they might be able to do a 4-bedroom on the lot with the site, but they're gonna need to show something.
Well, let the Board of Health make the decision. I mean, some of us may be qualified to do it, but it's a Board of Health decision. It's their regulations, it's what they're comfortable with. I mean, I could recommend 2 or 3 places for a septic tank under the driveway and some other place. It's not my call. It's up to them and the Board of
No,
Health
they
to
could
discuss
do,
this.
they could do, I'm not discussing placement, I'm just saying that they have to make sure that the unfinished space cannot be defined as a bedroom. If they can do that, but it sounds like they eventually want to finish it off, because they show on the plan a den, a wet bar, a bath. So in the future, I mean, you wouldn't want all this space, the space up here is bigger than the main house. You wouldn't want to leave it all for storage. So it'd probably be to their benefit anyways to figure it out if you fit in the lot.
Shouldn't they be able to make that decision before they come back? It's gonna be added costs. And if they want to, fine, I don't care if they come back and wanna make this into livable space with a bedroom and go through the additional.
I can cut to the
septic tank.
chase. I would not be in favor of this plan as submitted. If it's
Okay.
not the same as the other
Oh,
department.
I agree.
And the debating, it's fine, it's only a first meeting, maybe they can work it out, but this just appears that someone is gonna extend the living space, put up a system, and then they're gonna, at that point, the Board of Health is forced to do a variance if they wanna put a system in.
From with my limited, I think we should let the Board of Health weigh in on what the variance criteria are in this project. I hate to speculate on what this gentleman's gonna do in the future. If he comes in with, this is unfinished, and we only want 3 bedrooms from you, he has to start the pro process again if he wants to go to 4 bedrooms.
So what we
I
have to
think
go.
we should deal with
Yeah.
what's in front of us.
So what we have to go with from tonight, we have one referral from the Board of Health, and it says that reviewing this plan, they would have to have a 4-bedroom.
They may be resubmitting the, wait a minute.
So that's up to
Did I
them.
hear you say you may be resubmitting the plan
Yes.
consistent with the Board of Health? So that means you have to go back to the Board of Health, with the building commissioner. So you'd have to take that plan back to the Board of Health, so that we're all looking at the same plan.
Okay.
And whatever they say, and I'm sure from this discussion, you're gonna bring up, is it a bedroom, is it not a bedroom, is there space for a leaching field? I
Well,
don't care, it's all.
When we submit the new plan, it'll be unfinished. The definition of a bedroom goes by the square footage and if there is a window. So basically, that would be the point where it would be addressed by the Board of Health. If we would come before the board again, it's just that it's unfinished upstairs, then it is conforming, because we only have the 3 bedrooms and an unfinished second floor. So all you're gonna have finished will be the garage and the breezeway.
So if you can get something from Board of Health that says that, that'd be fine, but the only thing we have right now submitted is they're telling us that, looking at this, it's a 4-bedroom and you only have a 3-bedroom system. So that's just what their referral
Yeah,
is.
right.
So that's our issue.
And the letter from Scott, from engineering. That
And
Mr.
from
Montero
engineering
and
with the-
Scott get together on.
It sounds like you've already discussed it with Scott, so if he can just put that in writing, whatever those changes were, so they could resubmit that, and then if you want to submit a revised plan to replace whatever we have that shows what the building department is looking at, that would be helpful.
So
I
we're
think
looking-
we need to
What it'll say
continue.
on the second floor, it'll say unfinished.
So we are looking at a continuation date. I don't know what your availability is or how quickly you can get that work done.
What do we have available
3rd
for
October?
dates?
Take the quickest, soonest date as possible.
I think the
Just
third's
have,
too busy.
yeah,
The third's getting busy now.
just have,
Noreen, I don't know if you have any input on
input unfinished.
the availability of dates.
Only one new one on that.
Take out all of these things.
17?
Oh, really?
Just all you do is put unfinished.
But
I'm
this-
sorry,
Would October 17th work for you?
could you do it any earlier than that?
You can't do the
We have a
third.
pretty full schedule as it is. We either have the 19th and the 3rd, and both schedules are, or both days are pretty full.
But if the only 2 questions we have is Board of Health, we're gonna abide by what the Board of Health says.
Well, we have to get the engineering information back too. He's gonna have to revise his plans.
Wait a minute, let's.
We don't have to revise the site plan. If it's gonna be unfinished, then it's gonna conform to a regular 3-bedroom house.
Well, engineering on their plan is saying that they don't even have a lot of the setbacks and things on it. So, have you seen the engineering referral that came through?
I spoke with Mr. Schluter. I spoke with him twice, and I thought I addressed those issues with the board.
Yeah, he just didn't address them with us. So if he can send over all the information that he's received that and the changed plans that he asked for, but.
My point being is, October 3rd is either gonna be a wash, and we're gonna have another continuation, or we're gonna have enough information to make a decision up or down. And they know what that information needs to be. It's up to them to bring us the information, especially with the Board of Health and Mr. Schuler. We haven't any discussion on ridge height and things like that, or setbacks.
So on October 3rd, right now, we've got a new 40B that's going to be applying. We've got another continuation and another one. So I think October 3rd at this point is out. It would have to be the 17th.
Well, who makes the decision, the board or Noreen?
The
Or
board
you?
does.
Okay, all right, so I would like to
But we have,
consider we go with October 3rd. We can always continue it if the information's not there. There is not a hell of a lot, not a great deal of information we need if we've had, does anybody have height ridge considerations?
no issues with that.
No
I will
issues.
say it again. They would not be proposing this space above the garage. They did not intend at some point to build it out. The Board of Health has been clear, they consider it meets the criteria of a fourth bedroom. Before I vote for this, I want to see whether they can fit the appropriate wastewater treatment facility on the site.
Wouldn't it be up to the Board of Health to determine that?
They are before the zoning board. They are asking for our approval. We are entitled to take into account whether the suitability of wastewater treatment
But if the
as
Board,
part of the criteria.
but if the Board of Health says we're happy, why are we superimposing our environmental and sanitary?
We're not.
Yes.
We're asked, the Board of Health isn't happy.
And they have
They've
to
said
come,
it's a fourth bedroom. I
Well,
want to see whether they can, and that it would require a leach field on the site.
but let's
So
say,
let's see if they can put it on there.
but let's say they don't
Jerry,
have to.
if they can't, why are they building this much space on the second floor heated with a bathroom?
They ca-
Why, Jerry, why?
Ask them. Some
I
people
have
that
asked
have bonus rooms that are bigger than that. I have a bonus
It
room
meets
that.
the criteria according to the Board of Health for being a bedroom and
Well,
requires.
I guess we're getting into.
I'm
do we
just
think
telling
we-
you what the referral says.
Okay, and all I'm saying is, can we get it in the third? If this board says no, we're up to
So,
2
so
more weeks.
so I would like to make a motion to move it to October 17th. I just don't want to do the 3rd. I
Second.
think it's too
Second,
much.
yeah, third, whatever.
So, motion to October 17th.
Continue to October
Continue to
17th.
October 17th. That was made by Bob, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
One opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And up next, we have application 54-19, Busick, 40 Fraser Road in West Falmouth.
So, being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Mass General Laws, you are hereby notified that Peter Buchek of Wayland, Mass. has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to raise and reconstruct the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling on subject property known as 40 Fraser Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For referrals. Engineering, just the general comments regarding addition of dry wells, rain garden, or other stormwater measures for the roof area. Concom, they have questions. Does the coastal bank on property to the south extend closer to the building activity? Erosion control required to keep out of Concom jurisdiction. Low silt fence, low lip buried 4 to 5 inch with straw bales behind staked. If activity is within 100 feet of coastal bank, they will need to file with Concom. Water Department commented that an application has been received for a service upgrade. Fire Department, no comment. Assessors, no comment. Building, no comment. Planning, no comment.
Mr. Chair, I'm
Yes.
going to recuse myself because I'll probably have to leave before this is over.
Okay,
I definitely fallen quickly, and my ride's coming around at 8 o'clock.
well, thank you for
I don't know
participating.
if
in
recuse is the
very-
right word, but, you know.
Right, all right, so, out of an abundance of caution, then I'll name, James as a voting member on this. Okay, and for the applicant tonight?
Yes, my name is Neil Kidney, and I live in Yarmouth, Mass. So,
Would you like to tell us about the project?
yes, we previously had permits to tear the house down and build on the existing foundation. And when we started doing the demolition, the foundation was really substandard because it was a masonry block foundation. And when they put it in, they didn't put a bond beam or reinforcing in the blocks, which is typical. And so it started moving around quite a bit, so I recommended to Peter and Joanna that they consider tearing that out and putting in a new foundation. So if they're spending that kind of money on a new house, that they would be wise to do that. So in the meantime, we talked about it and thought that it might be, because of the setback issues, one front corner of the property was 12 feet away from the front bound and very close to the left side bound, that if we moved it a little bit, we'd improve that situation. So that's kind of what we're doing with the second go-around. In discussion with the building commissioner, he recommended that because we're changing, what we're doing so much, that we needed to come back to you folks. So here we are.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn it to board questions, if that's all right.
Sure.
All right. Mary, do you have any questions?
Is the house standing now, or is it,
Well, we stopped the foundation
Okay.
and left it there and talked to the building commissioner, and we were going to tear the rest of it out, but we decided that we'd be better just to leave it and we got it fenced off until we had an approval from you folks to move in a new direction, so.
okay, I went on a site visit, and I wasn't really clear because the numbers were hard to see, so
And
thank
they're
you.
probably in a dumpster. So mainly, the house is torn down to the first level,
Yeah.
the floor that we were going to leave. And when we were doing it, the foundation was just kind of going like that. And so I just told them I wouldn't build on it unless we did some significant work to the foundation. And so we came to the conclusion that a new foundation would be better. So
Thank you.
Anything else, Mary? Bob?
So what's the current setback that's not conforming?
I think the current setback on the far right side is 12 feet. And so we're trying to improve it a little bit and still stay out of the coastal bank and away from that coastal bank in the back as much as we can.
And then on where it's now 12 feet, and what is it actually improving to?
I don't have that plan right in front of me, but I think supposedly you folks all had site plans.
Looks like 18, isn't it? So on here it shows 18, so I'll go with 18. Can you comment at all to the issues brought up with conservation?
Yes, basically, the erosion control is a typical thing that you would do to, keep your construction debris, dirt from flowing down into the coastal bank.
Is that something in place now, or?
No. So that would be one of the first things that we would do. We would go, and when we, proceeded with construction, that we would install that barrier.
Have you talked to conservation at all?
Yes, Peter has, Peter and Joanna, the owners. Peter's gone down and talked to them.
With the current plan?
Yes.
So do you know if the activity is within that 100-foot bank or not?
No, it's not. That's why we're kind of keeping it a little bit more toward the road. We talked about moving it back further, but we wanted to just kind of keep it away from that coastal bank.
How far is it?
It's well over 100 feet.
That's all I have.
Ed, anything?
No, just one question, though. When you go in front of the house and go up and the road turns, and you go down, there's a house that's half tore down. That's nothing to do with this, right?
Say that again, please?
When you go in front of the house
Yeah,
on Fraser Road, and then you turn, because look, the road goes around,
yep,
and there's a house that's half torn down already adjacent to it. That's on another piece of property, right?
yeah, that's somebody else's.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's all. I
You'd notice it for sure, because it's a house that's half there, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what caught my eye.
Half a house.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ed?
No.
Alright. Ken?
You to me?
Yes.
So I actually had the same question, sort of, that I think Bob was getting at, with, you're 7 feet away from being conforming, you're at 18 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Why not push back the rest of it, and then you don't ever have anything to do with us ever again?
Well, we had thought about that. But, you know, but we were concerned about, you know, being back too far, too close to that coastal bank. That's,
And, I mean, and they talked to Conscom, and Conscom said they,
yeah, Peter has gone in as owner. He pretty much has been the one bringing the plans.
I mean, that's
to
the only
everybody.
issue I have, is, you know, when you start over, why not conform and then be done with it? But,
Mhm.
If there's a legit reason, like interference with the 100-foot setback, that
Well,
makes
within
sense.
it would, you know, it brings us, you know, pretty close, to the, you know, 100-foot away, but it's still a
It's
distance.
just not, you know, it's, from the owner's point of view, it's nice because they don't have to deal, you know, if they make changes
So
in the
if, so,
future.
so if you pushed it 7 feet back so that you'd have the 25-foot,
Mhm.
that's only moving you 7 feet, and you said it was well over 100 foot from the,
I believe so, yeah.
I mean, you don't really even
I don't-
need to, you could just rotate it a little, and you'd be there. You know,
Mhm.
and you might have to push it back a foot or two.
oh, that's a good idea, you could
Because
just
the other
turn it.
corner is 24 and
The
a
other
half feet.
corner's 24.6.
Yeah.
That could get in the way of the septic, though.
Well, I mean,
I don't
so
think so,
that
it's only
says-
7
that-
feet.
No, it shouldn't get in the way.
well, I don't know what the required setback is from septic leach area. It shows 20 feet here.
Yeah, it's, I think it's, I know the tank is 10 feet from the house, that's a setback, so
So,
we're gonna
well,
have to
again,
move
if
the
you're
tank anyway.
rotating it, you know,
Yeah.
or, you know, just a thought.
Well, it's a new tank. The tank isn't,
Is the tank been put in yet?
Say that again?
it says new tank.
This is an existing tank.
Oh, okay, so,
We're gonna
This says
move
it's
it,
a new tank.
relocate it.
This says it's a new tank.
Excuse me?
The drawing says it's a new tank.
Shows new,
shows a
di-
new tank
new
location.
distribution.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
it'll
yeah.
either be relocated, and what Peter understands is that if it's damaged, or we dig it up and it's cracked or something like that, we'll put a new tank in. We
Right.
gotta put a new tank
Right,
in.
but you are relocating it. so-
Yes.
So you could move it, again, you could
Yeah.
move it a little bit. It just seems like there's lots of room on this lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks like if you can adjust everything 7 feet altogether, you'd be all set.
It wouldn't have to be here at all, right?
Well, yeah, or ever again, if they decide to put in a dormer or add you know,
Hmm.
shed or,
Anything else, Ken?
that's it for me.
James?
No questions.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, any questions, comments, concerns from any members of the public out there tonight? All of you out there. Seeing none, back to the board.
Well,
I'd like to see if they could adjust that. I mean, I don't want to cause them a lot of trouble. It would be nice if they could just shift
I
everything
think it
7
would be
feet.
interesting to suggest to the owner that they could get themselves out from under the regulatory burden
Altogether.
altogether. I mean, it's approvable as is, but it's just,
Well, we certainly
in
can
the
make that
future-
suggestion to them, because I talked to them about doing that. We actually had that discussion with them. And they wanted to, you know, they chose where, you know, the engineer plotted it there, so that was their,
But, you know, it just might be, I'm not sure that, whether they've fully realized the benefit of pushing it back just a little bit further, maybe rotating it a tad, and being out from under the regulatory burden altogether.
If it was me, that's what I would do.
Yeah, me too. Even, yeah.
I'd get as far away from the boards.
But, I mean, so one possibility would be, this is, you know, easy to continue, or easy to approve, but give them a chance to think about that.
Well, we'd like to be able to get it approved so we could move on the existing foundation that's there, that's, you know, kind of out there, you know, as far as being negative looking in the community and kind of ugly, and that's what, one of the things they're concerned about, so. You know, I could, you know, and I certainly would talk to them about that, if that's your request, you know, consider moving it. If you could put that in your determination.
It's certainly a rare moment when the board is saying that we can relieve you from,
Everything.
relieve the property owner from coming back before the board.
Well, this is not my first zoning board of appeal meeting, so I understand.
But if you've had that conversation with your clients and they're amenable to where the structure is proposed, and, I mean, it sounds like the board's happy to approve it, but there is that option with making it completely conforming and never having to come back before the board again. So,
You know, we could approve this by motion, but have it, make explicit that if they were to push back further, let's see, would we need to do anything? We wouldn't need to do anything.
No, they'd have the permit for it, and if they
Yeah.
decided to do
Right.
it, they could do what they wanted.
Right. Yeah, so
sounds like some good findings. All right, so we would have to close and then make a positive motion.
So
does
motion to
anyone wanna do
close.
that?
Second it.
Okay, motion to close by Bob and second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll move to approve.
Okay, move to
Second.
approve by Ken and second by Ed. Moving on to findings.
They're improving the non-conforming setback from 11 feet to 18 feet. Lot coverage is only modestly increasing from 4 points, by structures from 4.6 to 5.2%. They're improving obviously the structural, utility of the structure.
So meets 240-3C and 242-16,
Yeah.
not more detrimental.
Okay, anything else for findings?
I don't know, should we put that we suggested it?
Well, we could make explicit that there appears to be
There appears to be room on the property that if they
room on the property.
did
so that
minor
they could-
adjustment, they wouldn't need a
So
special
that they could
permit.
achieve full conformance with the bylaw and not
Require a special permit.
require special permit at all.
Change your plan.
That's a
for water.
finding.
Anything else for findings? All right, conditions?
As
Plans.
per the plan.
Engineering comments. You know, we should add into the findings the conservation comments, only because I don't know if they apply or not, but if something does get adjusted and it gets closer, they need to know.
But they do appear to have
It looks like they have sufficient.
setback from the top of the coastal bank.
Yeah.
The conservation issue, that's a finding.
Yeah, and they will need to, as a condition on the conservation recommendation, they'll have to add in that silt areas, et cetera.
Conditions?
I
As
think those are them.
as Bob said, as per the plan.
Yeah, for plan, engineering conditions.
Engineering, Concom on the silt.
All right. So motion approved was made by Ken and second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
He's good to go.
I mean, if I could, I'd like to ask a question. What is your time, you've got to wait, what, a certain amount of days or something to,
Once the special permit's completed, you have, it's a 30-day
30-day appeal
period of
period.
appeal.
okay, so then,
Once it's
but then I
filed on.
can't submit the building inspector
Oh, I'm
wants
sorry,
to
20 days.
look at the plan, and so I have to wait that 20 days before we give the plan. Okay.
So, up next, we have application 57-19, Bullock, 66 Silver Beach Ave in North Falmouth. And for this, we'll be appointing Mary as a voting member.
So being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Mass General Laws, you are hereby notified that Robert C. and Janice M. Bullock, trustees of West Kingston, Rhode Island, have applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to raise and reconstruct the non-conforming single-family dwelling exceeding 20% lot coverage by structure on subject property known as 66 Silver Beach Ave, North Falmouth, Mass. For referrals. General engineering, including stormwater measures, and then they say that plans show the existing driveway is partially on the abutting property. Now changes are proposed. If this is an issue and the driveway is moved onto the property, a driving permit will be required. Concom, control stormwater on property, gutters, or dry wells could help. Planning, no comment. Assessors, no comment. Water department, the applicant must upgrade 3/4 copper water service to a 1-inch. Fire department, no comment. Health department, the existing home has 3 bedrooms per assessors, therefore no increase in flow proposed. BSS design plan dated 8/1/19 shows a compliant Title V septic system. Health will review the floor plan as part of the building permit to ensure that no other rooms meet Title V's definition of a bedroom. That's it.
And for the applicant tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicants Robert and Janet Bullock, the trustees of the Robert C. Bullock Revocable Trust, the owners of 66 Silver Beach Avenue. And Mr. Bullock is here with us this evening. 66 Silver Beach Avenue is located in the new Silver Beach part of town, which is a dense, largely seasonal residential community. This particular property is 4,514 square feet and is located in the residential C zoning district. The existing dwelling is a 3-bedroom home with a ridge height of 14 feet 3 inches. It's non-conforming as to front yard setback being 16.8 feet where 25 is required, and also to the rear yard setback. There's 2 sheds back there. One shed actually encroaches over the line, one sits directly on the line, and that should be a 10-foot setback for any structures over 100 square feet, 3 feet for any structures under 100 square feet. The applicant is seeking to raise and reconstruct the existing dwelling in order to make the home larger, more usable for their family, and to make it potentially their permanent home. What's proposed is remaining a 3-bedroom dwelling. All 3 of those bedrooms will be located on the 2nd floor. The 1st floor will be expanded living space, which allows for more functional use of the home. As to the nonconformities, the front yard setback will remain unchanged. The rear yard setback nonconformities will be eliminated. No new nonconformities introduced. The proposed ridge height is 28 feet. The resulting lot coverage by structures will be 24.32%, which is above the 20% allowed by right, but under the 25% allowed by special permit of this board. The existing cesspool will be pumped, emptied, and filled with sand. A new Title V system will be installed. Due to the existing nonconformities and the fact the lot coverage by structures will be over 20%, a special permit is required from this board under sections 240-3C and 240-69E. 243C states that pre-existing non-conforming structures may be altered by special permit, provided that they're not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. The board is asked to consider the standards of 240-216 and whether or not that alteration will create a new dimensional nonconformity, impair views and vistas, and reasonably conforms to the average dimensions in the neighborhood. Here, what we're proposing, the existing non-conforming front yard setback will remain unchanged. That house cannot be moved any further back due to the required septic setbacks. The non-conforming rear yard setbacks will be eliminated. There's no significant impact on views and vistas. Whereas the lot coverage by structure is 24.32%, it does require a permit under 240-69E, which says that the board shall consider the size and height of the structure in relation to the average size and height of structures in the neighborhood, the effects of shadow on adjacent properties, the impacts of views and vistas, and the effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. We did prepare lot coverage calculations. Of the nearby properties, 19 have a larger footprint, 29 have a larger gross building area. As compared to the surrounding properties, it's relatively modest. There's no detriments to this project, certainly none relative to the existing or on its own merits. There's no adverse effects. We're eliminating existing nonconformities. We're not creating any new dimensional nonconformities. There's no impact to the public views and vistas. And it meets a new Title V system is being installed, which will actually improve the coastal embayments. And it meets the standards of 240-216. Based on this information, I would ask that this board grant the special permit. I'd be happy to address any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Attorney Clara. James, you want to start us off if you have any questions?
Any objections mailed in, what the basis was?
No.
No other questions?
Ken?
No questions.
No, it looks pretty straightforward.
Bob?
I do you plan on moving the driveway at all, or?
They weren't intending to do so at this time. It's been that way since the dawn of time or so, and it seems to work.
No questions.
Mary, anything?
I had one question. Is there anticipated the gutters and the dry well?
So-
It's mentioned.
We spoke with our engineer, Tom Bunker, BSS Design. I spoke with the builder. The lot's incredibly flat. There's really no runoff from the lot. Actually, to the extent there's any erosion, it's at the front of the lot, which actually comes from the town way. What I'd suggest the board could do is, in the past, there's been conditions that, based on the review of our engineer, if they feel dry wells are required, that would certainly put them in if necessary. Absent our engineer's determination that it's required, I think they'd rather save the expense if it's not in fact needed.
Do you know why Concom, because you usually don't hear that much from them, but they actually commented on.
I have no idea. I saw that too, and I was a little, I expect it from engineering.
I've never seen that before, no.
I expect it from engineering.
That's why I asked.
Anything else, Mary?
No, that's it.
Anything else from the board? Members of the public, any questions, comments, concerns regarding this project?
I don't think he's gonna oppose it.
Wants to weigh in on his own application? All right, seeing.
I support it. Good people, I've known them over 50 years.
Oh, sure, if you actually do want to weigh in, you can give your name.
I support
Come
it.
to the vote.
Yeah, come to the podium, you support it.
My
All
name
right,
is Ron Johnson. I live at 4 houses away.
all right, thank you.
I've known them for 3 generations. And they're
Thank-
good people.
Thank you for coming.
I'll do anything you ask me to.
All right. How would the board like to proceed then?
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion closed by Bob and second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And how would we like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Second.
by Bob and second by Ed. Findings?
Compatible with the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's compatible with neighborhood. They're going up to 24.32, but it's a modest compared to everything else that's been submitted.
I thought the testimony said 28.
It did, but In the file, there was a correction that said 2432.
I mean, it'd still be perfectly
It's still under.
compatible.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
yes.
We ought to get the right number in there.
Attorney
Oh, there were
Connery,
29
I know
larger,
we closed the
29
hearing,
larger
but-
gross building area is what I'd said. It's 24.32%.
The driveway is partly on a abutting property, but they have no plans in this time to relocate. Septic system will be improved, they're putting a new system in.
Nonconformities being reduced. Rear setback being eliminated.
Meets 243C, 24069E, 240-216. Not substantially more detrimental, increases utilization.
Do you want to add a finding regarding the engineering and Concom's concerns, given the testimony? Doesn't seem. that
Yeah,
there
we
would be-
will put the finding in for engineering that if the driveway is relocated, a driveway permit will be needed. And I guess we could put a condition that if there is any kind of excessive runoff, that then
Yeah.
they do mitigation with dry wells or gutters. We might as well say that Concom also did comment on gutters or dry wells.
All right. Okay, anything else for findings? Moving on to conditions,
For plans,
plans.
condition the dry wells or gutters if needed, rain gardens if needed,
As determined by
is determined by.
their engineer.
Right.
Okay, anything else for conditions or findings?
No, that does it.
All right, motion to approve was made by Bob and second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
enjoy.
We do have items on our open meeting list. We have the minutes from August 22nd. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
Yeah, I looked at those today, I'm all set with them.
All right, any
There's a couple
modifications?
minor changes, but she can take it.
All right. Any other changes besides Ed's minor modifications? All right, entertain a motion to approve them.
I move to approve.
Move to
minutes.
approve, and we'll say with Ed's modifications. That was made by Mary, second by Ed.
I'll second it. yeah.
Second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we're tabling September 5th minutes to next week, Noreen? All right. Number 2 on our list is the tentative workshop, or I should say it's more than tentative, right? October 19th, 9 o'clock. Board discussion regarding zoning recodification committee. Do we have any updates?
Back to the
Oh, I'm
October
sorry.
19th. Was somebody going to contact somebody to speak? Mark,
Yes, and I
it was you.
I admittingly didn't do that
Oh,
yet,
okay.
so
All right.
I'll do that
On the
this week.
calendar.
Okay,
Wow.
I'll have an update
okay,
next meeting.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, zoning recodification committee, do we have any update?
Ongoing.
Ongoing.
It's gonna be
Forever.
ongoing for a long time, I think.
We're getting a lot done there, so.
So this is,
Is that true?
So far, I don't know.
Do we have any future agenda items? Okay, seeing none, our next meeting is October 3rd.
can I ask a
Oh, I'm
question?
sorry.
Is this there's a new comprehensive?
What's the next one coming up on the,
Next one.
on the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay.
So we received some material there for the upcoming comprehensive permit, October
Okay.
3rd. All right. And if there's nothing for any future agenda items, our next meeting is October 3rd,
Actually
6:30
nice to get the whole
here at Town
package.
Hall, and meeting adjourned.
An hour and a half, better than.